Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. My name is Monique. To all my subscribers, thank you all for subscribing and supporting me. And if you're new here, please do well to click on the red button below to subscribe. In these tutorials, we'll be learning how to make this draped button collar shirt dress with cut together sleeve and belt. So let's get into it. I'll be using 2.5 yards of silk fabric for this tutorial, so I'll be drafting it on the pattern paper before transferring it to the fabric. So I've gone ahead to mark the button allowance. I'm using 1 inch. Then this is the shoulder line. So I'll start taking my measurement from this point. So the first measurement I'll take is the shoulder width, which is 15 divided by 2 to give me 7.5. So I'm going to use everything I have here. I have about 7 inches. So I'll just connect it because it's a cut together sleeve. So I'll come down by 1 inch for the shoulder slope. Then I'll take 2 inches for the neck width. Then I'll use 2.5 inches for the neck depth. So it's a collar neck, so it's not going to be very wide. So I'll just connect it. Then after doing this, I'll connect this 1 inch I came down with for the shoulder slope. So from this shoulder slope, I'll take the chest line. So the chest line is 8 inches. Then from this other point, I'll take 9 inches because I'm starting it from the main shoulder line. So I'll connect the lines. Then now I'll take the shoulder to waist. So the dress is going to have a band. The shoulder to waist is 17, but because of the band, I'll be using 15 inches. 2 inches is going to make up for the band. So I'll mark it out. I'll connect it. So after doing that, I'll take the bust circumference. The bust circumference is 38 inches divided by 4 to give me 9.5. I'll be adding 1 inch for ease and 1 inch for seam allowance. That's 2 inches. So I'm checking what I have on the bust line. I have about 11.5. I'll place it on the waistline like this. I'm going to pleat it. I'll explain this later on. So I'm placing what I have on the chest line on the waistline. So I'll connect it this way. So after doing that, I'll come down by 9.5 inches. I'll be using half an inch for joining. That's why I'm coming down by 9.5 for the sleeve. Then I'll come in by 2.5 inches like this. Then I'll take a straight line to meet the 2.5. Then I'll curve it to this other line like so. So this is our Dolman sleeve. So I'll just go ahead and cut it exactly like this. So now I'll be cutting the back. I'll close this 1 inch for the button allowance. Then I'll place it on another pattern paper and cut the back. So the back is going to be on a fold. So I'm going to place it exactly like this without the 1 inch seam allowance. Then I'll trace it out. So I'll cut it out. Like I said, let the back be on a fold when you are cutting it on a fabric. So on the back neck depth, I'll be using 1 inch here. Then I'll just connect it to the neck width. So I'll cut it out. Then I'll cut out the shoulder slope. So this is our front and back pattern. Like I said, the back is going to be on a fold. So now I'll be cutting the skirt. I've gone ahead to mark 1 inch for the button allowance on the front skirt. So now I'll be taking the waist circumference. The waist circumference is 31 divided by 4. It will give me 7.5. So I'm starting it from this button allowance. Then I'm going to add 2 inches for seam allowance. Then I'll take the waist to hip. The waist to hip, I'm using 9 inches. Then the waist to full length is 30. I'm using 28 inches. So the full length, the full dress is 45 inches. So minus 17, it will give me 28 inches. So I'm adding 2 inches for seam allowance. That's 30 inches. I hope you understand. The full dress is 45 inches. So I'm marking the hip line and the full length. So I'll go ahead and mark the hip circumference. The hip is 41 divided by 4. It will give me 10.5. I'm adding 2 inches for seam allowance. So it's a pencil dress. So I'll use the exact hip measurement on the full length. So the exact hip measurement is 10.25. So I'll just place it here and mark the 10.25 without seam allowance. Like I said, it's a pencil dress. So I'll go ahead and connect the lines connect it to the waist. So this is our front pattern. So I've placed the front pattern on the back. So I'm going to fold this button allowance also. I'm going to fold it this way because the back is also going to be on a fold. The back doesn't have any allowance. It doesn't have zipper allowance. So I'll just place it exactly like this and cut it out. So make sure it's on a fold, please. But because I'm using a pattern paper, I'm just using one piece of pattern paper. So this is our skirt pattern. This is the front and this is the back. So now I'll come back to the front pattern. It's a drape skirt, so I'm going to do a slash and spread method. So from the waistline here, I'm going to come down by 4 inches. So from these 4 inches, I'll start taking 3 inches all the way down. I want the drape to be like about 3 inches. So I'm marking the 3 inches all the way down. So I think I have enough. I have about 7 inches on the lower part, which is okay. So you just decide how you want it. So I'll just mark a straight line, a horizontal line like so. Like I said, we are going to do a slash and spread method. So the next thing I'm going to do, I'll just eliminate. We are not using this hip line. So I'll just start cutting it from this line. Then I'll stop before I get to the end of the pattern. I'll stop here. So I'm going to spread it open like this. I'll spread it open on the fabric like so. So let me place it on the fabric and show you. So I've placed it on the fabric is on the fold. I left space of 3 inches on each line. So now I'm going to make it like an angle shape to know where each pleat is going to start. I don't know if you understand what I'm saying, but by the time I cut it, you understand. So I just marked it so that I will know where each pleat is going to be. That's why I took this angle shape. So I'll trace it out like this. I'll cut it out. So after doing this, I'll just remove the pins. So this is our skirt. So like I said, this angle shape I made is just to guide me on where the pleat is going to be. So as you can see, I'm folding it to each angle, or rather on each angle. So I'll place this other one and I'll take it all the way to this other side of the angle so that I'll know that I'm using 3 inches on each space. So I'll continue doing that. Pick the other one to meet the other 3 inches. So our drape is going to look like this. So remember, the length of the skirt is 30 inches. So I'm going to check to see if I have the exact 30 inches after pleating it. So as you can see, I have about 30 inches for the length of the skirt. So I'll cut out this excess on the edge of the skirt, this triangle shape I made. I'll cut it out. So this is what our drape skirt looks like. So now I'll be cutting the other part of the dress. So this is the back pattern. Like I said, is on a fold. The back skirt is on a fold. So on the front skirt, I cut out 2 pieces. So this is the top. This is the front top. I cut out 2, and this is the back top, is on a fold, as you can see. So now I've also gone ahead to cut out the waistband for the dress. So I'm going to cut out 4, but I have about 2 here for now. I'll be cutting extra 2. So I made it around 20 inches. I'll be cutting out the excess later. And the width, I have about 2.5 inches. So ½ inches for seam allowance. So I also cut out another strip of fabric. This is going to be for the placket on the dress. It's a shirt dress, so I'm attaching a placket to it. So it's 2 inches wide, and the length is around 47 inches because the length of the dress is 45 inches. I just left extra 2 inches for seam allowance, so I cut out 2 of it. So I also cut out another strip of fabric for the belt. So on a fold, it's going to be around 2 inches. I'll be using this for the belt. I cut out 2 of it. So I'll be explaining all this later on. So all our patterns are ready. So I'll be attaching, interfacing to the belt, and I'll show you. So I've done that. I've attached interfacing to the band. That is the band that I'll be using for the placket and for the waistband. So this is the top of the front. So I'm going to open it up like this. So I'm going to come in by 1 inch. Remember, we left 1 inch for the button allowance on our pattern paper. So from this 1 inch, I'll take the dart. The dart is 4 inches here. So I'm going to pleat the excess. So I have about 12 inches here, and my bust, sorry, I beg your pardon, my waist is 31 divided by 4. It will give me 7.5. So I'm trying to pleat the excess so that I will have around 7.5 inches. Remember, I used the bust circumference on the waist. So I'm trying to pleat it to have around 7.5 inches. So from this 1 inch, that I came in with, I'll start taking the waist circumference. So I have around 8.5 inches here, which is okay because I'll be using 1 inch for seam allowance. By the time I sew the 1 inch, I'll be left with 7.5 inches. So this is the good side. So this is how the plate is going to be on the top. So I'll repeat the same thing on the other side of the top. I'll come in by 1 inch. So I'll take 4 inch for the dart. Remember, this plate is facing the right side. I'll make sure the other plate is facing the left side. So what I'll do, I'll start pleating it also like so. So I'm pleating it by 2 inches. I'm using the excess around 2 inches. So I'm going to check what I have to make sure it aligns with the other top. So I'll be top stitching it here. Then I'll repeat the same thing on the back. So for the back, I'm going to fold it into 2 equal half. Then I'll get the center here. So on the center, I'll come in by 4 inches for the dart. Then I'm going to pleat it. I'm going to start pleating it from this 4 inches mark. So I'm going to pleat this first one to face the right side. So like I said, I'm pleating it by 2 inches. And I'll also take another 2 inches for the pleats. I'll pin it up. Now the other pleats will start from this other side. This time it will face the left side. So I'll pleat it, then I'll check to be sure that I have around 17.5 inches because I'm using 1 inch on both sides for seam allowance, and I'll be left with 15.5 inches. So I'll top stitch this part, then I'll show you when I'm done. So I've done that. I've secured the pleats with a stitch. This is the back, this is the wrong side, and this is the front. I've also secured the pleat with a stitch. So this is the skirt pattern. I've also secured this pleat I made. I top stitch on it. This is the left and the right side of the skirt. So I've added interfacing to the waistband. So this is the waistband. Remember I told you I cut out 4 of the bands. So I'm going to place it on the front top. This is one side of the top. So the 2 bands are going to be in between the top. So the top is going to be in the middle, and the 2 bands will be on each side. So I'll pin it up, and I'll cut out this excess. So I'll be sewing it by 1/2 inch. So when I sew it, I'll have something like this. So I'll do the same thing on the other side of the front top. So I'll sew it by 1/2 inch. Now on the back top, we'll place the band also. So the dress is going to be in between the 2 bands. So 1 on each side. So I'm going to sew it by 1/2 inch. We'll also have something like this. So then after I do that, I'm going to place the front and the back together. So I'm going to sew it on the shoulder by 1/2 inch. Like this. So let me pin it up. Good side to good side. So I'll place the other one like so from the neck point here. So I'm going to pin it up, and I'm going to sew it by 1/2 inch. So I'll go ahead and sew the shoulder and the bands, then I'll come back and show you. So I've done that. So this is the band on the waist. As you can see, the pleat is secured on the band. So this is the wrong side. This is the other side. So this is the back. So I gave it a good press. As you can see, the pleat is looking nice. So this is the wrong side. So this is the shoulder. This is where I joined. So I've joined the front and the back together. So now the next thing I'll be doing is I'll be joining the skirt to the top. So this is one side of the skirt. That's the front skirt. I'm going to get the good side to good side, like so. So I'll join them together. So I'll be sewing it by 1/2 inch. So I'll sew it here. I'll repeat the same thing. Place the skirt to the top, good side to good side. I'll pin it up and I'll be sewing it by 1/2 inch. So on the back, I'll repeat the same thing. So this is the back. I'll pick the back skirt, good side to good side. So I made sure I got the center of the skirt to align with the center of the top. That is the back skirt and the back top. So I'll be sewing it by 1/2 inch. Then I'll cut out this excess I have on the skirt. This side excess I have. That was why I made sure I got the center. So I'll sew it and show you. So I've done that. I've placed the top to the skirt. This is the back. And I've also done the same thing on the front. So this is the front side. This is our pleats. This is the other side of the top. So this is the center front. So as you can see, our drape came out really nice. So now I'll be attaching the placket to the center front. So this is the placket. I've added interfacing to it. So I cut it by 2 inches. So this is the 2 inches. And the length is around 47 inches. So I'll place it this way. So the band, the good side of the band is going to be on the wrong side of the dress. So the wrong side of the dress will be on top of the good side of the band like this. So I'll pin it up. So I'll just stop here. I'll be sewing it by 1/4 inch all the way to the full length. Remember, it's the center front. We're attaching the placket to it. And I cut the placket by 2 inches. So on the other side, I'll do the same thing. The good side of the band is going to be on the wrong side of the dress. So I'm starting it from the neckline here. So I'll pin it up. Then I'm going to sew it by 1/4 inch all the way to the full length. So I'll do that and I'll show you when I'm done. So I've done that. I've attached the band to the center front of the dress. So I stitched it by 1/4 inch. So this is the other side. So what I did was I folded it into two like this. After folding it, I now gave it a good press and I refolded it again to cover the stitch, and I also gave it a good press. So that's what I'll be doing for this other one. I'm going to fold it into two like so. Then I'm going to give it a good press. After pressing it, after ironing it very well, then I'm going to refold it again to cover the stitch. Then I'm going to iron it also. So I've gone ahead to iron it. So I folded it into two, like I said. Then I refolded it again, like so. So I'll be top stitching on this side all the way to the end. I'll make a very tiny stitch and I'll show you. So I've done that. I've top stitched the placket to the dress. I made a very tiny stitch. This is the wrong side and this is the right side. So this is the other side. I made a very tiny stitch. You hardly see it. It's looking very neat. So now the next thing I'll be doing, I've gone ahead to cut out another strip of fabric. Remember, we cut it out. I told you I was using for the belt. The length is around 48 inches and I cut out two for the belt, and the width is around 4 inches. So it's going to be, I'm going to fold it like this. Then I'm going to sew this part. We are making a belt, so I'm going to sew this part all the way to the end. After sewing it, then I'll sew on this part also. Here, I'm going to sew this part, the beginning of the belt. After I sew it, then I'll turn it to the good side. After sewing it, I'll turn it to the good side. Then I'm going to place it on the waist here like so. So this is the waistband. Remember the waistband we fixed. So I'll place it on the waistband, that is on the side seam. Then I'm going to pin it up. Make sure the front and back are properly placed. Then I'm going to be sewing it all the way. I'll be sewing it by 1/2 inch. I just want the dress to have a little ease. So I'll be sewing it by 1/2 inch all the way to the full length. So I'll repeat the same thing. This is the second belt. I'll repeat the same thing, join it together, then I'll show you when I'm done. So I've done that. I've attached the belt to the dress on the waistband and I stitched it on the sides. So this is the side seam. I stitched it all the way to the full length. So this is what I have. So I'll be giving it a good press later on. So this is the other side. This is what I did. I stitched it by 1/2 inch all the way to the full length. So this is the center front. Now I'll be attaching another band to the sleeve, because I noticed the sleeve is a little bit short. I'll attach another band to it. So I cut the sleeve by around 2 inches. So this is the band that I cut out. So I measured the round of this sleeve to cut it out. The round is around 18 inches. So I made sure the band is 19 inches because I'll be using 1 inch for seam allowance. So on a fold, I have around 2.5 inches. I'll be using 1/2 inch for sewing allowance. Then I'm going to fold the band like this. I'll open it up. Remember, it's on a fold. I'll open it up like this, and I'm going to stitch it here by 1/2 inch. So let me pin it up. So after stitching it, I'll open it like so, then fold it back so that it will be round. Then I'm going to place it on the sleeve. Then I'll tuck it in this way. Make sure it's equal. Then I'm going to sew it round. But I'll be doing this later on. Now I've also gone ahead to cut out a collar for our dress. So I'll measure the neck round. So the neck round is around 17.5 inches. The neck round for our dress is 17.5 inches. So that was what I used to cut out my collar. So this is the collar and this is the collar stand. I already have a video on how to draft a basic collar. I'll be dropping the link on the description box. So for now, I'll just go ahead and cut it on the fabric, then I'll come back and show you. So this is our collar. Like I said, I have a detailed video on how to draft it and sew a collar. So I'll be dropping it on the description box. So I've attached the collar stand to the collar. And I also went ahead to fold one side of the collar by 1/2 inch and I gave it a good press. That's what I'll be using to top stitch the collar. So I'll be getting the center of the collar and I'll notch the center point like this. So I'll be attaching it. Before then, I've gone ahead to attach the band to the sleeve. Remember the band we cut out earlier? So I've attached it to the sleeve and I stitched it round by 1/2 inch. So now let's go back to the collar. So I've also notched the center of the dress. That's the neckline. I got the center. So I'm placing the side I did not fold. Remember, I folded one side of the collar. So I'll make sure the two center points are aligning like so. So I'm sewing the collar on the wrong side of the dress. That is the side I did not fold. I placed it on the wrong side of the dress. Then I'll get this point, that's this part of the collar, to align with the placket. Then I'm going to sew it all the way to the other side of the collar to end on this side. That's this placket. I'll make sure it aligns properly. Then I'm going to sew it by 1/2 inch. So I'll do that, then I'll show you. So guys, I've done that. I've attached it by 1/4 inch to the dress. So this is the folded part. I'm going to tuck this part in like so. I'll tuck it in properly. Then I'm going to top stitch on it. I'll make sure the placket is properly placed on the collar, that is on the neckline. I'll make sure it's properly placed. Then I'm going to top stitch it here by 1/4 inch all the way until I get to the other side of the collar. That's the other end, the other edge. I'll tuck this part in properly. I'll make sure it's well placed. Then I'm going to top stitch it and I'll show you. So guys, I've done that. I've fixed the collar. As you can see, it's looking really neat. So this is what it looks like when I fold it. As you can see, it's properly placed. So now I'll be fixing button and buttonhole on this placket. I'll be leaving 3 inches on each space. I'll leave 3 inches. Before fixing the button, I'll be hemming the full length. So I'm going to fold it by half an inch. Then I'm going to refold it again by 1 inch. Then I'm going to sew on it. Then I'll show you. So I've fixed the button. I took it to where they fix button and buttonhole to do this. So I left space of 3 inches on each side of the button. Then this is the buttonhole. I repeated the same thing. I left 3 inches space on each side of the button. So let me close the button and show you. So this is what our dress looks like. So you can decide however you want to tie your belt. So you can tie it from behind like this. So you pick the other one, then you turn it to the front, and you tie it this way. It all depends on you. So we'll have something like this. So guys, we've come to the end of these tutorials. I hope it was helpful. Please don't forget to subscribe, comment, and give it a thumbs up. Thanks for watching.